Yeah, welcome to Drinkin, bros, kids. A lot going on in the world these days. We thought we would have a professional reporter on the show, an Emmy award-winning reporter on the show, rather than us two dummies out here spewing nonsense every day. We've got Brian Entin on the show. Brian, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for being here. Sorry for you were complimenting our studio, and then our producer just rudely cut you off with the intro music. You could have let him have his time. There's
Giorgio
a lot going on
live, so
the gentleman reclaimed.
Yeah, I was so distracted. There's so much cool stuff on your desk. I was like trying to see everything.
Yeah, next, if you're here in Austin, Texas, you can come in person. Usually Dan's got drugs out, but I don't see them today. So
they're in my body.
I'll have to stop by.
They're already in your body right now. Crazy world we're living in right now. I feel like every day there is some story that just kind of rocks the world, and then you forget about the day before. Yesterday's story was the 50 immigrants found in the back of a truck, dead in San Antonio. Is there any more information on this? Because we're in Texas right now, so we kind of get it first, but it doesn't seem like it's garnering too much national coverage.
Yeah, I mean, it's an awful story. The number is now up to 50. Like you said, they're saying that most of these people suffocated. So I was just thinking this morning about all these people in the back of this truck. What a terrible death it must have been. But I was just talking to my buddy who works for us on the border, covering the border. And he explained something interesting to me I hadn't heard, because I just assumed, this truck must have taken the migrants illegally across the border as part of a human smuggling operation. But I guess the way it works is the migrants walk across the border most of the time, and then the smugglers pick them up. A lot of times it's Americans who are being paid by the smugglers, pick them up, and then load them into these trucks on the U.S. side of the border. So it's not like this started on the Mexican side where they got into the truck and then drove across, because my buddy was telling me, like even though people can walk across and they get through the rivers and stuff, in terms of the roadways, they're pretty well surveilled. They've got magnetometers where they can look inside the trucks, and they would have noticed all the people in the back. So that was kind of surprising to me.
Yeah, it's so a lot of people don't know this, but it's not just the border that we guard. The Border Patrol has something like 100 combined traffic stops and permanent traffic checkpoints in the interior of the United States, right? And known throughways from, the border to major areas where drugs are unloaded, where human trafficking people are unloaded, stuff like that.
Right.
So they get caught. Like the first line of defense, I guess, is the border. If you can get over that and get into the back of a truck, I mean, we don't catch very many of these. Like this one, it seems like something probably went wrong, and the person that was driving the truck, fucked off or something. But it's like this. It's like season 2 of The Wire. I was trying to tell somebody this earlier, but they couldn't. They haven't seen it. Have you seen The Wire?
Yeah, of course.
It's like shipping container thing. Yeah.
It is, because there's no ACs in the back of these things. No. We actually use them for shipping seltzer, and there's no air conditioning in the back of these things whatsoever.
Now we have to it's not pasteurization. I can't remember what the name of the process is, but to transport an RTD liquid of any kind, whether it's booze or coffee or anything else, it's in a can like that. It has to be able to withstand temperatures up to 170 degrees.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So that means they expect that, that's the worst possible scenario. But I was doing, I looked on the interwebs at one of those internal car temperature calculators about how long you're in what amount of heat and what that translates to. And just based on the temperatures from yesterday, this would be in a car, not in a fully metal container. It was like 143 degrees. So it was probably like 150.
Right.
In a metal thing like that, right? So
and they're talking about obvious prosecution for whoever was involved. I believe there's 3 people in custody currently. But I thought the same thing when I was watching this story unfold yesterday. Was it definitely didn't come up from the other side of the border, because you would stop a truck that big no matter what.
Yeah, well, I mean, we don't have time to search every single truck, right? So there are clues to certain things, like they will look over bills of lading and things like that, and see if there's anything that looks fishy. And then if it's a standard vehicle, like a big van or a normal truck or a Sprinter van or a truck or something like that, or car, you can tell if there's Like they're not driving across the border in Bentleys, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So you can tell if
it's
the same thing we looked for vehicle-borne IEDs in Iraq and Afghanistan. If the rear of the car is like, if the suspension is down farther than what it should be, there's probably something back there you need to take a look at. But no, they don't search every single truck.
No, and
we wouldn't have time to. That would be a big problem.
Yeah, and most of the victims were teens and young adults. They're saying, and again, it's shocking it's not getting that much national coverage because typically, let's face it, if a Republican were in office right now, there would be every Democrat and their mother down at the border trying to figure this thing out. Why has nobody still gone down to the border?
That's a good question. I'm in my little bubble, I work for News Nation, and we try to go down the middle. I mean, we've got the guy I was talking about. We've got a reporter who just basically lives on the border. And if you watch News Nation, you'll see we have a border report probably every half an hour. So, so I hear about this stuff all the time, but you're right. I mean, I think, it's crazy down there. I mean, it just is. I've done a ton of stories down there, and I don't, my friend who works down there, he sees it every day. You almost become numb to it. But a guy like me, I live in Miami. I'll go down there for a week and do a story. And it's so eye-opening it's just people flooding across.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. That's what's happening. I mean, you just go down there, you see it with your own eyes. And I do think, Democrats don't really want to talk about it because it makes people mad. Makes people mad at the president. So in a lot of ways, they just sort of pretend like it's not happening.
Sure, yeah. If you start talking about it, then you take some responsibility for fixing it.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
But you remember when Trump was in office, all you heard was kids in cages. And then, AOC's got the picture up against the fence and all that other stuff. But that started in the Obama administration, continued through Trump, and now is continuing through the Biden administration at this point. When are we going to fix it? I know you guys cover it down the middle, and I see the footage. You're about the only one. Dan and I have a lot of listeners who are actual Border Patrol agents. So they'll just send in videos from Instagram, and we'll post them when we go live for these shows, just because they want to tell people what's going on down there, because they're exhausted, by the way. I don't know if you chatted with them when you were down there, but they're exhausted. They're all overworked. And there's nothing you can really do. And especially with how litigious some of these people are, some of them are getting sued for the way they're handling people. That's a whole other seedy side to this as well.
There's still the policy of not using Border Patrol agents on horseback, which, by the way, it's a lot easier to navigate some of that terrain on horseback than it is in vehicles or even ATVs. But that we still don't use those particular types of agents right now because somebody posted a still image of a guy holding on to the reins of a horse, and the entire left and media and politics in this country decided that he was trying to whip that dude,
right? And
that it reminded them of slavery. Like, are you out of your mind? There's legit, regardless of what you feel about open or closed borders, NAFTA and its upgrades or updates, I guess is a better way to say that. Anything that's going on down there, there's literally on a daily basis abject human suffering going on. We're not doing a goddamn thing to stop any of it.
No.
And the thing that's so crazy, sorry to interrupt, but the thing that's so crazy about the Border Patrol is when you talk to them, it's such a weird job because depending on who's in office, who's in control, their job changes so much. And I can't imagine having a job like that. Like under Trump, they were told to basically, go after anyone who was here illegally. And then all of those rules go out the window when President Biden takes over. And he sort of has these priorities for people who are, he says, a threat to national security and that kind of thing. So they go from being told to just protect the border, try to get people who come across illegally. If they come across people, get them out of here, to this whole new set of rules. And I think a lot of them feel really bad right now.
Yeah, I do too. But at some point, we got to do something about it. Why does every administration kind of skip over it, I guess?
Well, the Trump administration definitely did not.
Well, they tried.
Over it,
yeah, they tried. Absolutely.
But yeah, it's a good question.
But nothing came out of it. Even with the Trump administration, nothing came out of it. Yeah. And I guess you could say the policies were blocked.
Well, no, it's because we govern in 4-year increments, right? Like he's saying, things change so rapidly after. I mean, it was the Remain in Mexico policy and a lot of other policies were struck down by executive orders on day one in Biden in office, right? These things that we knew that worked, by the way. Tom Homan, who was, I think he was the interim director of immigration for a while.
Yeah.
We'll have him on the show at some point. I talk to him pretty regularly, but he was like, look, man, you may not like all this stuff. Like we are human beings down here working at this border. We see the suffering, and we're trying to do everything we can on a day-to-day basis to stop it. But the first thing you got to do is stop the crime and violence, right? So we can help people that actually need it. Otherwise, it makes our job more dangerous, and our attention is now taken off of actually helping people, making sure everything's safe and secure, to dealing with a criminal smuggling class, basically, right? That are extremely violent.
Yeah, and both sides.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and both sides try to play it, to make it seem like something so they can put it in a commercial and they can win elections. I mean, Democrats want to make it seem like it's not a big deal at all, not that many people coming, and they're not, taking our jobs or doing anything. And then Republicans at the same time try to make it seem like it's all these scary people coming across and it's all criminals and terrorists. And you go down there and, at least when I've been down there, 90% of the people you see look like nice people. I mean, it's women, it's kids, it's, mom and dad and the kids. So I think both sides milk it for their own benefit,
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, for sure. Another crazy story that just broke here. Ghislaine Maxwell just got 20 years in prison. Bob, do you have that court sketch, by the way, that they dropped?
So she got convicted of trafficking minors. To whom?
Exactly. And why haven't we heard who is just one person on that list, for example, Brian?
This is all connected to Jeffrey Epstein, right? I mean, that's the whole story there. But it's interesting. A lot of people, most people, say that she was the one behind the scenes bringing him all these young women, and that this is totally deserved. But I've also heard others say, is she sort of a scapegoat now, that he's no longer alive? Are people just pinning all of this on her? Was she also a victim of his? But yeah, I mean, bottom line, 20 years now. So she's going away for a long time. I think I read yesterday, I think she was on suicide watch.
Yeah, which I would be too. I mean, that's pretty much the rest of your life at that point. She's 60 now. She's looking, to potentially get out of there at 80 years old. With the way we covered Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, you would figure this trial would have gained at least the same, if not more, attention than that trial did. Yet we've really heard nothing about it. Well, she just got 20 years, and we don't know one single person who was in that book.
Yeah, somebody somewhere has got that black book.
Somebody has it.
The FBI has it, allegedly. Who knows? They may have lost it or lost it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, it's a very bizarre case. It begs the question. Like, I think we've seen a lot of stuff going on in the courts as of late. People are either happy or mad about it, depending on how it goes. I wonder if this particular case doesn't set some kind of precedent for somebody to file suit against the federal government, because right now the standard is federal trials are not televised or publicized, and I don't see how that should. Why would that be the case?
Yeah, I don't either.
Why should they not be?
You're in the know, and you've got some inside info probably on this. Did anybody come to you and say, here's who's in this book?
No. But I think this is one of those situations, and you guys know this. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein, the whole story, it makes a lot of powerful people nervous on both sides. I mean, You've got people on both sides of the equation. And we're doing that. This makes me remember we're doing this whole series this week on American oligarchs. And just these filthy rich people who have so much power. And this plays right into that. I mean, like, if they don't want that book out, they've got connections all over the place. So it doesn't surprise me that it's not out. And when you mention no cameras in the courtroom, I mean, obviously as a reporter, like, I'm all for everything should be out there. People should be able to watch everything. But I think the argument on the other side is, and we've seen this happen, when something's on TV all day long, does it sort of start to influence the judicial process? I mean, you see judges start playing it up for the camera. So I think that's the worry if they start televising these things.
Yeah, we could solve that the same way we could solve Major League Baseball's problem with balls and strikes, which is Futurama did this in season 2. I think it's robot judges. We need get Lambda, the AI from Google, to be the judge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Why not? Yeah. But I mean, look, if you got a hot lawyer like Johnny Depp has, let's see him in prime time. Let's go, instead of the J6 hearings in prime time, let's go that in prime time. Speaking of which, are you watching any of these hearings as they're going on?
Yeah, I have been. I've been watching today's a little bit, off and on. I've been had some other stuff going on, but I've had it off and on. I mean, today seemed like a pretty explosive day. I haven't followed it that closely though today.
The reason I ask is, do you think Americans care? I haven't heard one single person talking about this at the grocery store. Johnny Depp was nonstop, wall to wall. Every dinner conversation, you hang out, you got the T-shirts, you got all the fun stuff. This is one of those things that's, I don't know that anyone cares really.
I think people think it's just become so politicized. I mean, the Democrats milk it. The Republicans tell you it's not a big deal and that it's all political and none of it matters. And like anything, I mean, the truth is, this is kind of like, I think what you guys do on your show. I think the truth is in the middle. I mean, you have to be smart enough to watch it and take from it what you believe, the parts that you believe are important, and some of the political stuff you have to know to just throw away. I mean, like today, when you get firsthand testimony about some pretty alarming things that Trump was saying, I mean, that's probably something that you should pay attention to. There are other days where you can kind of watch and think, okay, this is like, they're just out to get Trump today, So I think that's how I go about most things, really. You have to go into it and kind of know, what to look for, I think.
Well, that's why I like a network like yours, because you guys are kind of in the middle. Now, I know CNN has a new president of their network, who's a Chris Licht. Who's going to be running that. He allegedly is trying to push CNN back more towards news that is in the middle. I think, mostly because when you cover the left for, only the left for so long, you're very limited in the stories you can do, especially when things go wrong. Like with Biden in office right now, there's nothing you can really talk about and or cover as a journalist. And, the ratings are obviously in the toilets. I would love to see most of the news go back towards the middle. Why do you think it hasn't?
So with CNN, I mean, I'm 37. I grew up watching CNN and being obsessed with CNN, like in middle and high school when it was just normal. Like that's kind of why I wanted to do this. Like they were always on the big breaking news, and it wasn't right or left at all. So CNN used to be so awesome, and then it just went crazy. And I think what's interesting is, like, I love what this new president is saying he's going to do if he could do it, kind of go back to the middle. But how do you do that when you have all the same people there? Like, how are we supposed to trust any of these anchors who have just like gone totally nuts for the last 4 years and they just put their opinion on? I mean, that's like what we're not supposed to do. Every night they tell you what to think, and now all of a sudden you're going to have the same people. And so I'm kind of I'm interested to see how all of that plays out. Why did they do it? I think because it in some ways attracts viewers. I mean, people want to hear what they think and what they believe, and they want to have their opinion backed up. So if you're super left, you're going to watch CNN or MSNBC, and it's oh yeah, they're telling me what I want to hear. And the same if you're super right, you're going to maybe watch Fox and have the same thing. And so it's kind of like an experiment what we're doing, and we're gaining more viewers. I mean, we're nowhere near CNN or Fox at this point. But it'll be interesting to see, we've been doing more ads and stuff, and we're trying to get attention, or we're a startup. But do people really want, in 2022, do people really want real news? Do they want to sometimes hear something that they don't believe themselves but might change their mind? Or do they just always want to hear what they already think? In their agenda.
Sure. Yeah.
It's going to be kind of interesting. What do you guys think? Well, I mean, do you think people want real news?
Yeah, I do. But I think you make a good point there about challenging people to challenge their own beliefs, right? There isn't any of that. It's not if you turn Fox News on or if you turn CNN or MSNBC on, in no way, shape, or form are they trying to convince the other side of the validity of their position. That's not in any way what's happening over there. All they're doing is, one, what you said, which is, just feeding the narrative of whichever side they're on, or it's the outrage algorithm, like the same thing that is blown up Twitter since 2015 or so. Just the angrier you make people, the more they will interact with your product for some reason. Now, I wonder, you guys, there's a couple of others that are smaller, Epic Times, but you guys are probably the largest truly neutral news agency that exists in North America, so far as I can tell. Like I know,
we're trying.
You're still pretty small, but you're not as far away from CNN as you are from Fox, numbers wise, right? So you can get there.
Yeah, I mean, we're growing. I mean, they market us as the fastest growing cable news network because, I mean, I've been there for a couple of years, and when we started, it was like no one really watched, and we are growing. We're nowhere near like Fox numbers or CNN at this point, but we're growing. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. I hope it works. I hope people want. I hope people want real news. And sometimes we get heat because I think so much of the media is like super left. And that's sort of like their agenda that, sometimes when you do try to just play it straight and down the middle, people think that you're suddenly right leaning. And it's like, no, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think because they're so used to hearing like 90% of the news outlets are sort of left leaning that when you try to go down the middle, you're suddenly assumed to be right leaning.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going to happen with it.
Well, I think we need to do what you're talking about, which is challenge people. It's not good to just have echo chambers on one side or the other, but it's also not enough. Like I think it's really important for all of us that work in media like this to realize it's not enough just to recite the information in a monotone voice and move on with your day, right? It's not enough to do that. Like there's layers to this. People need context. They need to be challenged. Yeah. They need to be challenged on their assumptions, and they need to be given like a graceful landing spot to challenge their assumptions and change their mind instead of having half the country dance on your grave if you make a misstep at some point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think you have to challenge whoever is in power, no matter who it is. I mean, Biden's in power now, so you got to be hard on him. And I watch the press briefing sometimes. It's like, sometimes there's so many softballs. It's like, you got to be so hard on this guy. He's the leader of the free world. And then if there's a Republican in office, you have to do the same exact thing. It shouldn't look like you're taking one side or the other. And the thing in today's world, and you guys know this from what you do, I mean, we talk about this all the time at work. It also can't be boring. I mean, people want some entertainment today. It has to be interesting. You have to make good TV, but be fair too.
Yeah. I just wonder if the media hasn't already divided everyone to where they're not ready for just down the middle news anymore. That's the biggest thing that I question, especially, when I read the CNN thing, because along the lines of what Dan said, I think you got to nuke out all those reporters first, Stelter and those guys, because you're already used to their opinion. You already know where they stand on all of the issues. You almost have to start with a clean slate and just get all new people there all together, which is great about your network is there's not anybody that's super famous on there. So when you're hearing the news, at least it makes it believable from someone who is grounded versus one of these, old heads who's been on the circuit for 20 years and just regurgitating the same stuff. But, with the popularity of podcasts and the ratings for like our show and everybody else's that are, pretty big shows, top 50 on a day-to-day basis, you wonder if people are just seeking out someone who thinks and sounds like them because they're not hearing it enough on television or in print media. And that's the only thing I question about, whether your channel or a new CNN or someone like that can survive. Is America just too divided where you just want to hear people that kind of agree with you? That's the only thing that I worry about. Point.
Yeah, I think this is something I think about a lot too when we hear so much about America being divided, and it clearly is in a lot of ways. But I think what we're trying to appeal to is like the middle, like middle America, like these people who really aren't that divided, like the people who just, who are kind of think like you and me, like we're talking about, like they just want to have a good job and have their, kids go to a good school and people to get along and to have a nice life. And, they're not like so polarized on either end. They think, super left woke culture is crazy, but they also think like Marjorie Taylor Greene is crazy. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I think that's like who we're really trying to go after right now.
Yeah, because I thought about it like as I was a kid. Like CNN, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia originally. So CNN, that was the hub, obviously. And it was on every single place you went. It was on every single, TV screen everywhere you went. It was CNN, and it was just kind of the news where you just kind of trusted it and went along with it. And whatever was going on in the background, you looked up and you were like, all right, great. That's the news. That's what's going on in the world today. But as you grow up, when you're young, you have this hopefulness about the world itself, and you care about everybody in the world and things that are going on across the world. And then as you start to get older and you have a family, and then you're like, all right, I care about my community, maybe my neighborhood that I live in. And then you get older and you're like, all right, I just care about myself and my kids and a handful of neighbors, things like that. It's strange how it's gotten smaller and smaller and smaller over the years. But then looking back, there was a doc on the other night where they were rolling through the 60s and 70s, in rapid succession in these 1 hour docs. And I was like, well, shit was fucked up back then, too. Is it just a different time because of social media and it's in your face all day? Because it was clearly worse back then.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think about that all the time, too, because you were always told, oh, my gosh, like we're so divided. America's awful right now. But you think back at the things that we've gone through in history and that we've overcome, that some of the stuff sure seems a lot worse than what we've dealt with in the last couple of years, even with the pandemic. So I think that, too. But back to CNN, you mentioned like Stelter and some of these guys. Like a lot of the CNN anchors I really respected and still do to a certain degree, as a journalist. And when things started to shift there, like, at the beginning of Trump, I think a lot of journalists and maybe people watching, it's like you're thinking like, am I the crazy one? Or does this seem like, are they starting to be a little like opinionated? Or maybe I'm just crazy. And then we all realize like, no, we're not the crazy ones. Like they just went crazy,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they did. And I think they did for ratings, to be honest with you. Because as you watched it over the years, CNN rocketed once Trump got into office, and it was Trump wall to wall all day. Even now, if you flip it on, they're still trying to, it's just wall to wall J6 coverage. And that's it. Maybe a little bit of Ukraine dashed in there, just a Salt Bay dash of Ukraine sprinkled in on top of it. But that's their bread and butter because they can't talk about anything that Biden's doing whatsoever because that goes against their base and everybody who's currently watching. And that's going to piss off their advertisers. So, yeah, I don't know. And same with Fox, by the way. I'm not saying Fox is better than CNN. It's the same way with Fox, where they're going all in the same way that CNN did. But Fox's ratings have been massive for so long that it's like, all right, well, shit. How do they change, and why would they change? To be honest with you, once you're making that money,
huge.
I know, and it's staggering. Dan is on Tucker Carlson a lot. He goes on, a couple times a month, and I did a 1 hour sit down with him. What was that? Fox Nation?
Yeah.
Fox Nation, yeah. And it's like their ratings are so massive and it reaches so many people. Even as large as Drinkin Bros is, my grandfather was even like, man, I saw your co-host on Tucker Carlson. And I was like, you don't even watch this show, homeboy. But you know what I'm saying? It was like, it was a Friday night too. And he was watching Tucker Carlson on a Friday night. And these ratings are so massive for Fox, they're never going to stop because that's a gravy train that keeps on going.
Well, yeah, I think the thing is like I don't have a problem with Tucker Carlson. I just think like, obviously I'm on the inside of the industry. So I know when I watch someone like him that it's not news. You kind of watch it. Again, kind of like we're talking about the hearings, you take from it what you want and maybe other stuff you're like, oh, I don't really agree with it. This is an opinion show. But I think a lot of people don't see the line. And I've got a lot of friends who worked at Fox and who work at Fox. And I think the Fox now is a lot different than the Fox pre-Trump or the Fox 10 years ago. I think they used to be really, they had a strong line between opinion and news. So they had a news division that would do the news during the day, and then they had the opinion hosts at night. And there were rules that the opinion folks didn't mess with the news people, and that they let them do their thing, and then the opinion people did their thing. And I think remember there was all that backlash when Fox viewers started to think that Fox was hard on Trump, and a lot of them left and went to like Newsmax and these other places. And I think that Fox got nervous because there was a time where they were starting to like lose a lot of viewers, where people, these hardcore Trump supporters were thinking that Fox was hating on Trump. So I think now, like you said, it's a business model. I mean, they don't want to make any of those people mad. So it's all sort of merged into this one opinion news machine.
Yeah, because, Dan and I own a media company. We got about 13 shows over here, and it's like, if ratings are going well, I'm certainly not going to tell anybody to stop. And I think Fox is the same way. CNN is the interesting one because, they've got so many big salaries that not only could they get rid of the salaries and start over, but you also just have nowhere to go since the entire media is left. There's nowhere to go there, so I think that they're forced into starting over. Whereas you guys are the most interesting case because you're all brand new, you're all in the middle, you're not going back from something. Because don't you think that if CNN does go to the middle, there'll be a ton of backlash from all the people on the left who watch them on a daily basis?
Yeah, and I just don't think it's possible. I mean, how do you do that with all the people who have gone totally left? It's the same anchors. How are we supposed to trust them? I don't see how that works unless they just fire everybody and start over. And the thing about CNN, I mean, at least when you watch Fox and MSNBC, it's like you kind of know their shtick. They almost they're kind of open about it in a way. CNN, it's like they just try to make you feel bad. Like, no, we're doing just the news. And like, if you question that we're opinionated, like you're wrong. And you're the one who's wrong. We are straight news people. You know what I mean? And they almost try to make you feel bad about it all the time.
Yeah, it's strange. And then MSNBC kind of just trickled off, and they're getting rid of Maddow. I don't know how much longer that'll be a network. Is Jen Psaki starting there?
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Their ratings are big too, though. Yeah. Their ratings
for MSNBC.
I mean, they're not with Fox. Oh yeah, I mean Fox is like king, but MSNBC is right there below Fox, and then you got CNN way down there. So MSNBC does really well.
Yeah, I think.
Forgive me. Yeah, who are the anchors, Dan? Who's bringing it in? Because Maddow's at once a week.
Solis is over there. Chris Hayes is over there. Lawrence O'Donnell, I think, is still there.
Joy
Reid. Joy Reid.
One of the most awful human beings in existence. Joy Reid.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think CNN's or MSNBC rather is probably going to be the cozy landing spot for a lot of the ejections from CNN. I don't know.
Yeah, I could see that.
There's not a leftist media startup in our future. Right. Like it's been done. That's the industry standard. It would be like, it's just not going to happen. Right. So they got to go somewhere. I think it's probably going to be there.
Yeah, that would make sense. It's so hard to because, like you said, how do you trust these people after hearing their opinions? Because I'm with you. I think they're opinions. How do you trust them after hearing opinions for all these years, and then they're going to do hard-nosed journalism?
And I don't. Sorry.
No, you go.
No, I was just going to say, I don't think that the anchors are necessarily going to want to change either. Because in some ways it's easier to do what they've been doing. I mean, you pick a side, you get all these people who love you because they agree with you on Twitter, and you develop this like fan base, and you just tell them what to think and they believe you. I mean, that's kind of easy in a way. I mean, we could all do that pretty easily. It's a lot harder every day to think, oh my gosh, like how do I do this story fairly? Because it's so complicated,
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if they went back to the middle 2000s Fox model, which is 7, 8, and 9 p.m. are your editorial people, and during the day you just go back to straight up news, right? Instead of Aaron Burnett for 3 hours in the middle of the day just spouting liberal propaganda the whole time.
Right.
Like, just give me the news, man. I just want to know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
And it begs the question, I guess. there's always been, not always, but for the last 50 years or so, there's been a pretty decent amount of editorializing in the way in the places where we consume news, right? Like in the 70s, there was a big push by the media to get us out of Vietnam, led by the man in media, right?
Yeah.
So that's been going on for a long time. I don't know. I agree with that. I don't think we're necessarily going to get away from that, but it begs the question, what is the role of journalism in the country now? I think delivering people the information, the facts, and a little bit of context in a way that's entertaining enough that they'll consume it is important. But I don't see the even sometimes tongue-in-cheek or animated or very slanted debate that happens sometimes as a bad thing either, because that's something that process can be useful if people use it to bounce their ideas off and kind of flesh out what the actual reality of the situation is. You know what I mean? Like he said, it's a lot easier just to dictate and prey on people's emotions than it is to have a nuanced conversation about something.
Yeah.
Like Jon Stewart was a big critic of Crossfire, right? He did that. He went on Crossfire, actually, told them they were fucked. I think he's full of shit, right? That conversation happening between Tucker Carlson, who's been a conservative his entire goddamn life, right, and knows a lot about what it actually means to be a conservative, right? Not like the way we use the word these days, but he actually is a smart guy that knows about it. And then he matched up frequently with Carville, right?
Yeah.
And who knows quite a bit about being a liberal, right?
Yeah.
From policy to strategy for a very long time. That's a pretty important conversation for people to hear if they're trying to figure out what good solutions to problems are. I just,
and that was like one of the first shows like that, wasn't it? That's the first one that I can really remember watching.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it was the only one.
Bill Maher did one early 2000s. He ended up getting nuked for that 9/11 joke.
Well, it wasn't a joke. He said that the hijackers weren't cowards.
Correct. Yeah,
they were like people in the media keep calling them cowards. Like they flew planes into buildings and killed themselves. That's not really a cowardly act necessarily, right?
Right.
Like they're assholes. Yeah, but he was right. Obviously that whole time, but whatever.
Yeah, I agree with you though. Like I think a good formula, and we've been trying this on News Nation, and this is like above my pay grade because I'm just a correspondent. Like I don't come up with the way they're going to program all the shows, but I think, like let the journalists present the news, just the facts, and then if you want to have a panel on, have people from both sides and give them equal time and let them go at it with each other, and people can watch that and decide what to think. I think that's a pretty good format.
But you got to have the right. Like I think the mistake Crossfire made was they didn't have the street man. You know what I mean? They just had both sides represented. But you need a filter in the middle. You need something that's like, what you're saying is right, but what about this? Like asking smart questions instead of being emotional or offended or challenging somebody on something that doesn't quite make sense. Like, why don't you explain that a little bit more and let's see if this idea makes sense? Because maybe it does, and I just don't understand it yet. That's a really fucking important part of the process of having a national discourse. Again, like I said before, it begs the question: what is the role of journalism in the West now? And I'm curious what your take on that is. Like, you guys, you're part of a startup that's trying to get it right now. From your perspective, I wonder what that is.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can't imagine a world without reporters. I mean, just because, I did local news for so long. I mean, the thought of there not being people out there going and, doing public records requests. And I mean, I've chased after so many mayors and, governors and like with my little microphone, I mean, that's what scares these men and women in power from, doing crazy stuff all the time behind our backs, is knowing that, the newspaper or the TV station is going to be digging around. I mean, I think we'd be in a lot of trouble if there weren't journalists doing that. And I think so much of it like happens that people don't even see. I mean, I think about it a lot. I'm working on like 10 stories at one time, and maybe one will make air in the next 6 months. But that doesn't mean like I haven't been like emailing people constantly and putting in public records requests. And like they're totally freaked out that we're, looking into whatever we're looking into. Like if there were people doing that all the time, do you know how much like the government would get away with? It would be crazy.
Sure.
Yeah. Are you ever allowed to have your own opinion on a show that is down the middle? I know that seems like an odd question these days, but I certainly have to ask it.
I mean, on some stuff, I think maybe it's borderline appropriate. Like change the topic, but I covered the Gabby Petito case like really extensively And so when people will ask me about that, you know, some of that stuff is pretty clear cut. Like, you know, he killed her. It's awful. You know, I don't believe his story that she was hurt. You know, like stuff like that. I think it's just obvious. But with politics and stuff like that, I don't ever go there, just because that's not my job. You know, and honestly, I've been doing this, you know, for a while. You even start to just train yourself, even in my personal conversations. Like, I'm much more interested in what other people think and trying to figure that out than giving my own opinion.
Just one point of advice: if you're chasing down mayors and you tap one on the back, be prepared for him to tell the New York Post that he was violently assaulted.
Yeah, he was. Rest in peace. He was actually pronounced dead at 1:48 p.m. today. So rest in peace, Giuliani. We showed that footage yesterday. It was pretty hilarious. No, but as far as world affairs go, right? Let's say it's not something political. For example, like a thing that pissed me off, for example, today was this Ukraine coverage. This Ukraine coverage has been nonstop. In my opinion, it is not our war. We pulled out of Afghanistan horrifically. I don't know why we care about this, and we're giving Zelensky a platform on every goddamn show, you know, the Grammys, Time 100, all that stuff. And today, NBC has announced that on July 3rd, the day before our own Independence Day, they're going to have a full hour called Ukraine Answering the Call, which is a primetime special to raise money and awareness to support the opposition and conflict.
See, this is new. This is a new thing. We've had Senate hearings before. We've had grandstanding. Everybody remembers Major League Baseball steroid thing in, what was it, 2004 or 5 when they had those hearings?
Yeah.
Everybody, like, there's always going to be political grandstanding, and they're always going to try to capture people's attention and leverage that attention in a way that gets them reelected, right? It's just how it goes. But having people from Hollywood come in to produce literal propaganda for you, this is new.
Yeah.
In America, we've never done this before. Like back.
Well, and I think the thing with Zelensky too is, and look, I mean, I don't have personally anything against the guy, but you know, so quickly he was made into this hero, and maybe he is. I mean, again, I don't have an opinion on this that I want to share, but I think anytime someone. Yeah, and whatever, you know, I mean, honestly, of course I have my own secret opinions, but anytime someone is made into a hero, though, like, I think we should just be skeptical. I mean, like, again, I go back to my journalism roots and just sort of my reporter's instinct. Like, the minute everybody starts worshiping someone all over the world, it's like I'm just like, oh, what don't we know, you know?
Yeah, because I'm reading the God, the press release from NBC right now. And it says, including special guest Alicia Keys, Julianne Moore, Brad Paisley, Rosie Perez, Brian Cox, Jeff Daniels. No offense. If there's a war going on in the world, I don't necessarily need to hear from the guy who is the lead opposite Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber.
I don't know if he's got the haircut, if he's got the hairy haircut, and he's driving around the shaggin' wagon. Right.
I mean, you guys know what this is about, right? I mean, it's money, it's ratings, it's they're going to put those names out there. They want people to watch. They feel like Ukraine is a hot topic right now, and let's get this. It's, you know,
but
it's going to be the executives the next morning looking at the rating sheet saying, "Oh yeah, we made this much money off that show last night."
But what I can't wrap my mind around is, I'll go back to the top of the show. 50 migrants died in a truck last night. Why aren't we raising money for them? Let's do a 1 hour special for the families of Uvalde or the immigrants in the truck last night. Why it's on the other side of the world. We have no business in that whatsoever. If we were in war, with Ukraine and standing next to them fighting, sure, but we're not. We have plenty of problems going on here in America that we could be doing fundraisers for, and we're not. This shit will piss me off to no end, which when you're covering this, I couldn't hold back, I think, on your network and just read this as a straight story.
But don't you think, and this is probably what people who don't agree with you would say, I mean, do we have a duty to stand up if a country like Russia just invades a sovereign nation? Like doesn't someone they're the little guy, and we're, don't we have to stand up for them? Or couldn't that just get out of control?
It could, yeah, but I mean, you got to ask yourself who the country being attacked is as well. And this isn't I don't think Ukraine necessarily did anything to deserve this, but I also don't really think that it's a great idea for the United States to be sending weapons and money to a country that just banned banned the political opposition and also banned 2 news organizations that don't agree with them, right? Like that's
well, they've got one TV station now. I don't know if you've heard about that.
Yeah.
So which again, from my perspective, I'm like, that's that's freaky.
Yeah, because if you're Zelensky and you're the hero that you're a comedian on television, you would think it would be, all right, great, TV for all, not for just me.
Well, it feels very Manchurian Candidate, to be honest. This whole thing has it's like they plucked him out of some obscure television show and turned him into the president of a country that borders Russia. Really, like that's the guy you chose for your wartime president?
Right.
It all reeks of nonsense. But just to your point about, it's a very difficult decision to make when to and when not to, get involved in foreign affairs, especially when it doesn't directly affect you. Not that this doesn't directly affect us in a lot of ways because of natural gas and oil and wheat exports and all the stuff that come out of there. But I wonder to myself what, American lives are worth. And, I place those above others. Like if that makes me a fucking xenophobe or whatever the fuck, this is my country. So I want to make sure that our most important resource, which is our human beings that live here, are if they are leveraged in some kind of way that's going to put them at risk, it's for an absolute cause, like defeating the Nazis, and not necessarily a border dispute between Russia and Ukraine. You know what I mean? Like it's obviously it's more complicated than that, but that's where my brain goes when I'm trying to make these decisions.
Yeah, and obviously Dan served overseas, so he's more experienced on this subject. I did serve at Olive Garden, and that was fucking brutal.
Giorgio got served in the parking lot by a breakdancer.
He sure did, yeah. So a lot of us have been served here, but it says here as part of the special events, the Ukrainian president will address the American people and use the platform to share stories of real people whose lives have been dramatically impacted by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Again, if we're going to do a fundraiser on prime time for NBC, Uvalde would have been a great one. What just happened yesterday would have been a great one.
But I don't have a problem with that. Like, I don't have a problem raising money to make sure that the Ukrainians that are now in different, like in Poland and other places, are taken care of. Like, that's an important thing to do. You don't have to get involved in every aspect to be a good player on that scene. You know what I mean? We don't have to send troops there. We don't have to send weapons or money there either. We can just help the people that are in the crossfire.
Right.
Like there's a lot of ways to handle that situation.
Right. But we have sent money and we have sent weapons there.
Yeah, and we've also had
we've done everything except for put troops on the soil.
No, we've done that too. Yeah, there's Special Activities Division is there. So
shit.
There's an article about this on it was either Saturday or Monday, I don't remember. But yeah, we've had civilian advisors, right, from the intelligence community there. This is exactly how the fucking Vietnam War started, by the way, right?
That happened in Nam.
Yeah.
We did that in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
No.
Well, in Afghanistan, though, those guys were developing intel, and the other side, the special activities guys, were hitting targets with SOFLAM radar so we could fucking light them up with airstrikes. That's a little bit different.
No, I mean when
Russia.
Russia.
You mean in the 70s? Yeah.
And same, and the Soviets had advisors in Vietnam when we were balls deep into Vietnam. It's same old game.
Yeah, this is the same stupid bullshit that America always does, right? Like, it's so. I hate to quote Mr. Miyagi, but
wow, you're going to?
Yeah, don't fight, but if do fight, win. You know what I mean? The most horrible thing you can do to a war fighter is put them into a fight they can't win, and the only way to put them into a fight they can't win is by choosing the wrong fight or not giving them the authority. Right? This is just management 101. Mm-hmm. Management failures happen. The most frequent management failure that happens is not empowering and giving the authority to your subordinate to do the job they need to do, right? Because you end up having to, by force, micromanage them. And like in business, it might cost you some deals. It might make you inefficient. In war, you die. Right. You know what I mean? Like it's unacceptable.
Yeah. Are you guys?
The other thing I don't understand. I was just going to say the other thing I don't get is like we're told about all these sanctions and we are cutting them off. They are cut off from the world. Their airline, Aeroflot, cannot fly anywhere. The planes are grounded. We're told that people are angry. But now their currency, I was reading last night, is like doing better than it's done in years. Like they kind of seem to be doing just fine in a lot of ways, which I don't get it.
Yeah, Dan's talked about that a bunch on this show, that their economy is like the ruble, everything is back better than it ever was.
Right. And
we're the ones that are suffering, allegedly.
No, it's I would say so now it's going to be Africa because of the wheat shortages that are coming. Mm-hmm. But so far, I mean, aside obviously from the Ukrainian people that have been fucked over by Putin repeatedly, the second, third order effects of that have hit Germany and the United States most through energy costs, right? Germany did the same thing that America's been doing, which is shut down nuclear power plants and try to like unreasonably fast convert to renewable energy. And we don't have the infrastructure for it. We don't have the ability to even make the goddamn cars. You know what I mean? So Germany did this. They shut down, I think they had 6 nuclear reactors left. They shut down 4 of them last year. And by the way, like this stuff with Russia and Ukraine has been going on for a while.
Right.
This is the 3rd time in 20 years that there's been a major incursion. So they did that. Now they get the majority of their energy consumption is Russian natural gas, right? Because they cut off those nuclear supplies. So now they're like, we can only affect their economy so much. Mm-hmm. And they can also raise the prices on their natural gas and their wheat and everything else.
What does their debt default mean? They had their first debt default since 1918, like a day ago.
That's Russia?
Yeah.
That means, well, we'll see what it means. Standard & Poor's may downgrade their fucking credit rating.
Around the world.
Happens, yeah. Like the United States credit rating got downgraded, I think, what was it, 2015 or some shit? Mm-hmm. I don't remember when it was. It was right around, it was somewhere towards the end of Obama or in the beginning of Trump. I don't remember when it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, our international credit rating got downgraded. So that's probably what it will effectively mean. But I don't know what that means in the long run. Does that really matter?
Or does it matter to them?
Like people aren't really trading in rubles that much. The reason the ruble's doing well is because one, war is good for the economy because you're spending money, put money in people's pockets, and they're spending money, and also because all your exports now cost more and people are dependent on them. They cost more because it's hard to move shit in and out of the country during a time of war, logistically and securely, and that makes prices go up. And everybody, like if prices go up, if the cost of transport goes up 20%, people raise it 25%.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're going to get theirs. Everybody takes a little chunk out of it.
And it's better to have your money in rubles than it is crypto these days. So, if you can convert it, go ahead and do it. Are you guys covering the Brittany Griner story at all?
We are. I was actually Phil and anchoring last night on Ashley Banfield's show, and we covered it quite a bit. She was in court yesterday. They had video that came out of Russia of her, and they think they just extended her
6 months.
Not her sentence, but 6 months. Yeah. And she's going to apparently be going to trial soon. But it's like there's so much going on behind the scenes. Are they going to do? Are they just extending it, trying to negotiate like a hostage swap sort of thing, a prisoner swap?
That's what I said.
It's sort of, I think. Yeah, that's what I think based on the experts we had last night. But it's crazy.
It is, because Putin wants Nicolas Cage, and I don't know that we're ready to give him up yet.
He's got a couple more on him first.
I think so.
Like, aren't they making a new National Treasure movie?
No. So they're going to make a series, but he's not in it.
Oh, who is it?
Justin Bartha is going to return, but Nick Cage is not. So I'm not ready to give up Cage.
Maybe you guys have some insight. Maybe you guys have some insight into this. Because I hadn't done a ton of Brittany Griner stories, but we did one last night, and I was looking at the comments, which is never a good idea, but
I never read the comments either. No,
but I do. Sometimes I can't help it, and like there are so many Brittany Griner haters. Like there's a lot of people who do not have any sympathy for her, and I don't really get it. Like
I can fill you in on that one. She was domestic abuse, domestic violence against her partner at one point.
Okay.
She's been arrested a few times, and wasn't the most popular person in the WNBA. She's probably the most talented that's currently playing or was currently playing. But as far as at home shit, she wasn't the best. And Dan and I brought this up yesterday, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. Is what if there was hash oil in her baggage, and she is guilty of this? you broke the rules in someone else's country. Why should America give a shit about that? If indeed she did break the rules and that was in there. Now, we've only seen little clips of the video. I don't know if you guys have gotten it on your network, like behind the scenes when they opened up the suitcase. Was there any hash, like, because it cut out the footage that I saw. Was there anything?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm the same as you. I haven't actually seen the full video.
Yeah, and it's just it's a strange one to me because it's been so long now at this point with somebody of kind of that level of fame, why she still would be over there and nothing really has been done. So I'm not sure if this is a guess. If maybe the U.S. knows something that's the rest of Gen Pop doesn't, where maybe they have the footage and they looked at it and they were like, well, shit. How do we explain to the American people that we just gave up the merchant of death for somebody who was actually carrying weed in her suitcase? You know, because we don't view it as a big deal in America. Shit, Dan's probably smoked more than she had in her suitcase than the last hour.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But I mean, there's I've talked about this on the show before. There's in ancient Rome there was something called civis Romanus, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it just means Roman citizen, but if you were anywhere else in the world outside of Rome and you said civis, like somebody tried to accost you and you said civis Romanus, it was a reminder that if you fuck with a Roman citizen, the entire Roman army will come annihilate your town and salt the earth afterwards. Yeah. There's something to be said for that. You know what I mean? Especially when you're dealing with despotic people like that. I don't know. I think it should be, look, good diplomacy happens behind closed doors because you start talking in public and exchanging ideas in public, and then people, especially with the media these days, they slightly warp your idea, they take it out of context, and then you see a headline on fucking Drudge Report and it says, oh, President Biden said Putin's a bitch or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's not even close to what he said or what he was trying to say, but now Putin's fucking feels like he's got to come back at him, and it's just like this stupid exchange where no actual information exchanges. Good diplomacy happens behind closed doors. Now, this has been going on for a while.
A long time.
It's like 150, 160 days now, something like that. Yeah. Nothing takes this long. You know what I mean? So there's certainly a complicating factor. I would assume that this is what I thought about, or what we talked about, I think it was on Monday. And I said the same thing you did, Brian. It's I think Putin is trying to leverage for a better get because that's important to him. Like, it may not matter to Joe Biden if he gets one over on Putin or anything. Mm-hmm. It may not have mattered to Trump, although it obviously would have mattered to Trump.
Yeah.
He's got a huge ego. But it may not matter to Biden. It may not matter to the administration to get one over on Putin or to win that exchange. But it definitely matters to Putin because their culture is different. Like, we could have a conversation here and say, you know, yeah, maybe she fucked up, but she's one of ours. We're going to take care of it. Mm-hmm. And we did what we had to do to get her back. And most people will be like, yeah, whatever, fuck it. You know what I mean? But if you do that in Russia, you're like, you're a bitch, man. Yeah. Like, it's a much more machismo-driven culture than we are, and you can't get away with shit like that. And I think he's playing that game. This is the way that Putin's operated since the 90s.
Well, I look at what happened with A$AP Rocky, you know, a few years ago, and Trump got him out of there, and he was guilty. I mean, he had, you know, weed or his buddy started a fight or whatever it was, and Trump got him out of there pretty quick. I mean, it was 2 weeks, I think, tops.
No, that was not the scenario whatsoever. People were harassing him and chased them for like multiple blocks, throwing stuff at them, like trying to get them to pick a fight, and then his security guards beat him up.
Oh, security guards did. Okay, gotcha.
They all got arrested together.
They all get arrested together. Yeah,
it was absolutely ridiculous.
But even then, Trump got that guy out of there and his whole posse in like 2 weeks. It's strange that you wouldn't get a WNBA star out of there.
Sweden's a bit different than Russia, right?
I hope. I've never been to either, and that saddens me.
Sweden is a pretty good country.
Is it? Okay. Yeah. We'll find out. Do you guys do entertainment over there?
We do. I'm trying to think. Entertainment a little bit. Ashley Banfield's show. She does. I mean, what do you mean by entertainment?
Are we going to see you doing a New Year's Eve special in New Orleans? You know, I want to see you drunk on New Year's and how hard you go.
Like Andy.
Yeah. Look, Anderson Cooper did it, for Christ's sakes. Like, are you going to go out in the streets, take some Molly, and figure things out on New Year's Eve?
I think that was kind of another low point for CNN personally. I mean, they were all like drunk on New Year's Eve, and then you're supposed to trust them the next day, you know. But yeah, we do fun stuff. I mean, we do fun stuff. I could see us doing like a New Year's special. I mean, we might not get drunk, but yeah, we do fun stuff like that.
Here's a random one. Actually, I saw some people talking about this on Twitter the other day. It was a picture of, I don't know if it was G7. I think it was G7. It was a bunch of politicians, and they were all wearing suits, but shirt, no tie, open collar, right?
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
And someone commented, like, this is like, they tried, the point they were making was that it's a sign of societal decay, right? Like, we don't give a shit enough to wear ties anymore. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I believe in that necessarily, but, you know, dress for the job you want. Like that's a real psychological principle, right?
Sure.
I don't know. What do you think about that? Like, news
I think they were
like,
just trying to look cool. Like, oh, you mean I saw the picture. I mean, I think they were just like trying to look like we're a bunch of cool guys. We're taking the tie off. In terms of like wearing a tie as a journalist, I think that's old school now. I mean, look at you guys. You guys are in t-shirts, and you got all these listeners and people, you know.
Well, we're dressed for the job we want. We want to get drunk.
Yeah.
You know, potentially get in a fight out in the streets. Like, we are dressing for the job we want. I'm not on TV every day.
Yeah, I don't think, you know, I'd want to wear a t-shirt on TV, but normally I fill in anchor sometimes, but like 90% of the time I'm like the guy in the field traveling all over the country, going to the stories and stuff. So like I'm usually in a polo or a button down just because it's usually hot, or, you know, I'm running around. It's like just stupid to wear a suit and tie when you're, you know, chasing people around at the border or something, you know?
Yeah.
So you know, I even think with the pandemic, less people dress up. I'm just not like a tie guy. I actually wore a tie the other night filling in, and like got all these comments like, you don't have a neck. So then I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to wear a tie again. Like, you know.
Don't read the comments. But as far as we dress for the job we want, I mean, we talk about Hope Solo's butthole half the week. So
That's true.
This is exactly who we are. Like, and underneath it, it's even worse, you know? I got a pair of Adidas sweatpants on because I'm going to the gym after this.
I'm wearing mermaid bottoms.
Are you?
Yeah, it's full mermaid down here.
Look at you.
Yep.
Proud of you.
Oh, my gosh.
Now's the point in the show. We get to the Drinkin' Bro of the Week, which is someone who has inspired you, helped you become the person you are today. Bry Guy, who would you want to give the Drinkin' Bro of the Week to?
Probably, that's a good question. Wow. There's so many. Probably my dad. I mean, I know it's kind of cheesy, but
no, it's fine.
He inspired me to who I am today. So yeah, I'll give it to my dad, Michael Entin.
Mine's going to be President Volodymyr Zelensky donates on. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, did I get this all wrong?
No, could you imagine? Jesus, no. Look, a lot of people say their dad, and it should be. You know, a father figure is very important in most people's lives, and I would say over the years we've done about 13, 1,400 episodes on this show. 70% say dads. That's normal.
Do they? Okay.
Yeah, that means you had a decent childhood. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you would have said your priest or your scout leader, then there's a different story we could have gone. There's a different road we could have gone down.
There's something to unpack at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got one too.
Could have been a lot of follow-up questions.
Alex Marafiat. Remember the dude that posted his grandfather wearing the Meat Queen shirt?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So his name is Steve Peterson. That's his grandfather. He's a big fan of the show.
Oh, I'll tell you what. Text that over to Bob and see if he can put it up on screen. That'd be great.
What, the picture?
Yeah.
I think it was on the...
Oh, that's right. We put it on our Instagram. Yeah. Go to the Instagram, Drinkin' Bros Instagram. Speaking of which, where can we find you? Tell everybody where to find you, Brian.
Okay, so News Nation, that's the station I work for, trying to do unbiased news. We're on most cable systems. We're in I forget how many gazillion homes. Where if you have CNN or Fox, you get News Nation. It's just a lot of people don't really know we're on the lineup. So you have to kind of search for it a little bit, or put in, if you go to our website, newsnationnow.com, you can put in your zip code and it'll tell you the channel where you live. So I'll be on News Nation. I've been filling in a lot because a lot of anchors get summer vacation and stuff. So I'll be on tonight, 10 o'clock Eastern, fill-in anchoring. And I'm also on Twitter and everywhere. So you can find me pretty easily. Check out News Nation. We'd really appreciate it. Again, it's a startup, so we'll take all the viewers we can get right now.
Absolutely. And look, you're doing the right thing, at least. Whether it works or not, we'll see. But it's awesome that somebody's at least trying to do it, and we greatly appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on. It was really fun. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. For D'Anthony Holloway, I'm Ross Patterson. This is the Drinkin' Bros podcast. Good night, everyone.
Blammo.
Blammo.